Preston, you were sending me. You were talking. We're talking about the legacy system, right? And you were sending me some charts. And Opti, if you could be so kind to pull them up. Why were these on your mind this morning? What is the significance of these?
Okay, so these are just bond yield curves. This is the U.S. bond yield curve that you're looking at. Go ahead and so people can see that as it's going up, it's selling off. Okay, and the reason there's so many lines is you're dealing with overnight money to 30-year debt, and the whole host of durations in between is what that's showing. And the money that's the highest sell off has been the short duration money, and the ones that are down at the bottom are your long duration money. And what's ironic for people is like, so you're getting a lower rate to lend at 30-year versus like 3-month, which is what this is showing here. Now, why this is important is this is showing that central bankers have not got anything under control. Because when you look at these yields and you look at the numbers that are being produced here, you're still sub 4% across the whole yield curve. Yet inflation is still raging at, I'd have to look at the last print. Hodl, you might know it off the top of your head, but like
I got to look it up too.
We're in excess. We're probably around like 6% or something like that. So all of this debt that you're seeing on this curve is still underperforming by 2% of just exceeding inflation prints. And so they don't have any of it under control. And you're seeing that the markets here in the US at least is starting to look like they're expecting a recession and for that inflation rate to drop. That's why you're seeing it flatline, and you've seen it flatline for what, like 6 months now here in the US. But what I want to show you is, so this is the US yield curve. Bring up the next chart, which is probably the UK. Yeah, I think this is the UK. Okay, so this is their yield curve. You're not seeing the yield curve in the UK flatline yet. In fact, it's still aggressively selling off, chasing after their double-digit inflation prints. Okay, the next one, I think you just pulled that one up. Yeah, this is the third one. This is the European bond yield curve. So that's the UK one. Go back to the tab on the far right. Yep, right there. This is the European yield curve. And so it's continuing to sell off like crazy because nothing is under control over there. These markets in the US and over in Europe are so interconnected, is with the size of the banks and the bailouts, and just like it's basically one giant blob of disaster. Whether you're here in the US, over in Europe, or Japan, like it's a mess. And so the reason that I'm bringing this up and why I think this is so important, and the chart that I sent you after this had already started because I had my times mixed up, was the oil chart. And why all of this is important. I know I'm talking about a whole different host of ideas here, but where I'm really going is none of this is under control. And the reason none of it's under control is because now you have OPEC Plus coming out and saying, oh yeah, we're going to reduce the amount of supply that we're dropping into the market, right at a moment where people think that they're starting to get relief in the oil market. And what that's going to potentially do in the coming 2 quarters is you might have another run on oil where it's starting to take off again, and it might go over $100 a barrel. And if that happens, the input for inflation, which is driving these charts to sell off, because all this debt is trying to perform and capture a yield that's better than inflation. That's why it's selling off. Because if you're getting 4% on your treasury and inflation 6%, you're guaranteed to lose 2% of your buying power by sitting in that treasury. But if oil starts taking off again, it's only doubling. Here's the oil chart. You can see it's had a lot of relief. Most of this was due to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in the U.S. being providing a ton of supply into the market to offset the price as it was running away. But now you're at a point where OPEC is fighting back. And so you have this battle that's currently taking place between OPEC plus net producing countries versus net consuming countries that are trying to control things through treasury curves and printing a bunch of fiat money. And there's this battle taking place between net producers and net consumers that are basically making up this digital supply of units that they're just trying to control those and clawing them out of the market. And they're saying, you know what, we're gonna prevent the amount of oil that's going into the market too. And so that effect is insanely profound and insanely important for just the simple idea that none of this is under control. There is a battle taking place.
So, Preston, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if we're sliding into recession, you would expect oil to go down, right? Because there'll be
Absolutely.
less people moving around in the economy, right? Less
Yep.
use, less demand for oil. So, what would be the catalyst to cause oil to spike up, in your opinion?
Well, I think OPEC's play is, hey, if we can control the amount of supply, like we can make the price go up. Like if let's just take an extreme example. If they cut the amount they're supplying into the market by half, which they're clearly not doing that. But if they did, just to kind of understand the mechanics, like you're going to shoot the price to the moon on oil. And so I think their play is, oh, you think you're going to be able to create a recession, and all this whole backstop facility that you just stood up is a play of let me describe the mechanics of that real fast so people can understand. So all the debt on every single bank's balance sheet was basically at a discount, we'll just say about 15%, which makes them insolvent. So they step in and they're like, well, you can just put those on deposit, and we'll basically bid that the whole treasury, all your treasuries by 10%, and then you're not insolvent anymore, because it was a 5% interest that they would put it on deposit, and then it gets bid to the premium. So basically, they bid the price of every single debt instrument on their balance sheets by 10%, making them solvent. That's manipulating the market, right? So if I'm an OPEC plus, if I'm going to play devil's advocate and sit on the other side of the fence and say, all right, they're gonna backstop this, they're going to put them on deposit, they're going to create a recession, interest rates are going to come screaming back down, and then they're going to basically plop all those debt instruments back onto their balance sheet, and it's going to appear like they just diverted the crisis completely. That's the play, okay? But what throws a wrinkle into that play is if you can sustain the inflation and maybe even elevate the inflation further by controlling the number one supply input, which is energy, to all these supply chains, all of a sudden you are not the entity that you think you are as far as being able to drive recessions and control the global economy. There's another player that has a whole lot of power in this, which is the OPEC plus net producing countries that are saying this is a bunch of BS. And we're going to go to battle on this, and we're going to make you look like fools.